Today we are talking about one of my all-time favorites, Steve Vai, and his delay trickerations. Steve was one of the original rock guys to have the giant effects racks. He had his Eventide stuff in there, he had Yamaha stuff, delays and SPXs, I think he had some Ibanez delays, and of course, one of the units that he's most closely associated with, the Roland SDE 3000 delay. This one. These are still fairly inexpensive on the used market, and they're a great sounding delay. Eddie Van Halen used them in his rig. You could see Dave Friedman has them in his rig. And Steve Vai was a hardcore SDE 3000 guy. When he started with Alcatraz, I think that was maybe the only rack unit he had. So he would use them in different ways. As creative as his music is, he was pulling out this creativity with the delays and using it for everything they're worth. When I was a wee boy, I took a few guitar lessons at a local mini mall shop. I remember I came out of the lesson and they walk you through their magazines and book section, and it was sitting there, right there. The Steve Vai guitar extravaganza. It was amazing. It's this huge book, huge, with Steve Vai on the cover looking amazing, and it has excerpts from, well, the whole songs, but not every song, from Skyscraper and from Eat 'Em and Smile, which is like straight from heaven. And then Steve Vai goes through each song and talks about which effects he used with settings. It's a treasure trove of information, incredible. So that's what I'm drawing on for these settings with the SDE 3000. So if you see little clips, that's where that's coming from. Unfortunately, this book is not available anymore. How were they not pumping these out on the printing press? Everyone should have this book. So thank you to Steve Vai for making this book many years ago. And I'm going to plug in and let's see if I can recreate some of these Steve Vai guitar delay tricks. The first trick is a really easy one. You take your main guitar, which I have my Friedman going into a Synergy Steve Vai module. It's being powered by a Friedman BE100 head, which is then going into a Fryette power station for the load, which is then going into my DAW, where I'm using the 2 Notes Wall of Sound and the official Dyna Virtual Cabinet collection, which is coming. But anyway, so here's the sound. You take the SDE 3000, set it to 730 milliseconds, pan that all the way to the one side, take your dry guitar, pan it all the way to the other. You know what stinks is there's no touchpad. So to get to 700 milliseconds, it takes forever. So what I'm doing is dry guitar over here and then SDE guitar over there. So this is dry. It gives you a chance to hear the tonality of the delay also. It's a little warmer, or a little, I should say, it's not like it's warmer, it's just a little more like crunchy lo-fi. Just a little bit. So at the beginning of Yankee Rose, Steve plays this very cool chord. It's an F chord with the G at the top. Which is a lot cooler than without the delay. It doesn't take up that whole stereo spread. So that's trick number 1. He does a lot of stereo spreading stuff. I like it. That's one way to do it. On Ladies' Night in Buffalo, he does another sort of doubling thing. It's really a thickenerizer. It's a much shorter delay. So we're at like 35 milliseconds on the delay, but there's a lot of modulation going. So I don't know if they're panned quite so drastically hard left and right, but it's a nice way to kind of set up this little melody he plays. On Shy Boy, he's using it as a straight chorus. We're down to like a 14 millisecond delay. Very small modulation, which is when the sound kind of wavers in pitch. It still has a super chorusy sound. I love the song Hina on Skyscraper. It's such a brain scramble. He actually used a Yamaha delay for that, but since we're in the Roland mode, we're just going to stick with that. The delay is set to 360 milliseconds. There's no modulation whatsoever. It's just supposed to be a straight copy, so it's just one repeat. And then Steve created this great song around it. I can't imagine trying to play that live. I don't think they ever did that live, because if you fall out of sync with your delay, you just sound like an idiot. It's really hard to stay perfectly in sync the whole tune. You got to get like in a Zen state. I never tried to learn it before. I just learned it, so it's a little wonky, but it's fun. I think I'm going to be playing that for the rest of my life. I'm just going to set up delays and going back and forth and bounce back and forth. Since we're here in delay land, this is not a Steve Vai delay trick, but Eddie Van Halen used 2 of the SDE 3000s in his rig. Dave Friedman's got them in his rig. And let me just show you kind of what's happening there. Most often the way I've seen it, it's set up with a multiple, 50% multiple on the timing. So like 250 to 500 or 300 to 600. And sort of in a wet, dry, wet. So you have your dry center. Then the delays will be hard right and hard left. At least I know in Dave's setup, there is still a little bit of dry coming through. So it's, I don't know, 50% dry and then a little of the echo happening. And it sounds humongous. If you've ever been to their NAMM booth, it's glorious. Makes just everything you play sound amazing. So yeah, that's what this sounds like. So the shorter delay you have to set up with a longer feedback, or it'll just get drowned out by this longer echo on the other side. Do I have that enough? It just kind of fills in the space back there. It's a really beautiful sounding delay. Zzz, delays, parentheses S. you're not a vintage rack kind of guy, you could get the SDE 3000 sounds pretty easily. Boss makes the DD500 pedal, which has an SDE 3000 mode in it. I've AB'd them, they sound the same, except now you have this bulletproof Boss form factor. Roland also makes an SRV 2000. It's a super underrated reverb. We'll talk about that another day, but there's a way to switch that into a delay mode. It doesn't have quite as long of a delay setting as the SD 3000, but if you're not sure if you want a reverb or a delay, maybe that's the way to go. Alright guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.